AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from downtown Baton Rouge.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR live from Don Juan Cigar Bar, presented by Got Lit Christmas Light Installers. And we are glad to have you hanging out with us on a football Friday. LSU, Ole Miss, Saints going to get massacred in Buffalo. We got a ton to do. Phil Steele in 15 minutes. Terrio next hour. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, we are going to count you down all throughout this afternoon to LSU at Ole Miss, a giant game that both of these teams feel like if they win it will put them on a trajectory to the college football playoff. You've heard that plenty from Ole Miss people throughout the course of this week. They think if they get by this game, there's really two games the rest of the schedule that they sort of worry about. If they dropped them both, they'd be 10-2, and that would be enough to be in the college football playoff. Obviously, for LSU, if they move to 5-0, it would be hard to find another game on the schedule, maybe at Bama, maybe at Oklahoma, where LSU would be an underdog. So a lot on the line for the Tigers and the Rebels in Oxford on Saturday afternoon. So we're going to get a ton of thoughts on this. Now, look, I don't need to wait until the end of the show for you to know where I stand on this game. I've already said it all week. I gave I published an impassioned Locked on LSU episode this morning. Got more compliments on that than anything I've done this year so far. But the bottom line is, I think this is super simple. I think LSU has an elite defense. I think a lot of people have tried to discredit LSU's defense because Clemson and Florida are not very good football teams. That's fine, but if you then are going to turn and prop up Ole Miss's offense, let's also point out the teams that Ole Miss has played, because the bottom line is Ole Miss has put up some gaudy offensive statistics that is inarguable, but when you look at the four defenses that they have gone against as far as their pass defense rating, you were talking about quite literally four of the worst pass defenses in the country. Georgia State is 120th, Kentucky is 123rd, Arkansas is 74th, Tulane is 105th. Ole Miss has put up gaudy stats against garbage teams, and they're about to face what might be the best defense in college football, and they're going to be using a former Division II quarterback to try to run the show. And as my friend Russ Mitchell said, Ferris is not a state, it's a wheel. And I think I think Trinidad Chambliss is in for a very rude awakening Saturday in Oxford. There's no secret about how I feel about this game. I'll give you like a formal pick and all at the end of the show like we always do. But I think the Tigers are in an awesome spot. The home team has won the last 5 in this series. I think that absolutely ends on Saturday. I have not felt this confident about the LSU Ole Miss result since 2022. And if you remember that season in 2022, LSU, it was Brian Kelly's first year. Ole Miss was 7-0. They were ranked in the top 10 in the country because they were undefeated. They hadn't beaten anybody with a pulse. And at the beginning of that week, I said definitively, remember, LSU they lost to Florida State, and they got blown out by Tennessee. And I said before, at the start of that week that I wasn't even waiting to the end of the week, that LSU was going to win the game. I got crushed by Ole Miss people all week because how dare I pick against the top 10 undefeated Rebels. I said, y'all ain't played nobody. And LSU beat them 45-20. It was a beatdown in Baton Rouge. I know this game's on the road, but I have not felt this bullish about this game since 2022. I was right then, and I'm right now. We can pussyfoot around this thing all we want. LSU's a better team. They got a better quarterback. They got an awesome defense. They got a better coach. everything about LSU is better in this football game. They're going to go win in Oxford. Anyway, we'll talk plenty about it throughout the day. There's a bit of disappointing news that Brian Kelly did share on Thursday when he met with reporters. Actually, this was on his radio show on Thursday night. So we learned on Monday that Gabe Reliford had a subluxation of his shoulder. Brian Kelly likes to go with the technical medical definitions here. Anyway, Gabe Reliford's shoulder injury. Kelly said on Monday that we were going to wait for the week to play out to see just how severe it was, if he was going to be able to play through it, or if he was going to need surgery. Ultimately, Brian Kelly on his coach's show disclosed the injury to Gabe Reliford that is going to cost him his season.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's out for the season. He has a torn rotator cuff, so he'll have surgery next week. And, that's, generally 4 to 6 months. If you look at it on the long end, he'll be back for spring ball. So certainly disappointing for him, feel for him, because he's worked so hard to be in that.
There's a few things here that I think are super relevant. Kelly also in that answer talked about how they replace Gabe Reliford. Now, on Monday, we knew Reliford was not going to play in this Ole Miss game, and Kelly mentioned 4 players. He mentioned Dylan Carpenter, Kalaj Cobbins, C.J. Jackson, and Damian Shanklin. He talked a little bit more about those players, but also just about the situation that this team is in defensively as opposed to where they were last year and how much more able they are to be able to absorb a loss like this.
The next man up is good. And, we're very blessed at that position to have, 3 outstanding fifth-year seniors at that position. Jamari Butler, obviously, Jack Pyburn, and Patrick Payton. All 3 of those guys have been really, really outstanding for us all year. Now, there'll be a rotation for that 4 slot. Dylan Carpenter played a lot, a local guy who was really solid for us. Kalaj Cobbins, another local player from New Orleans, now gets an opportunity. And Damian Shanklin, as you know, who had, as a true freshman, had 2 sacks in the game. He'll have an opportunity. So that 4th player for us, that's the depth of a roster, right? Just think of if you lose, your starting defensive end last year, you're in trouble. This year is a whole different roster, and we'll be able to manage as our 4th guy.
Remember what happened a year ago. They didn't lose a starting defensive end, but they did lose Jacoby and Guillory in the second week. And what they did was they moved Parrish Shand from end inside. So you really ended up with only 2 last year. You ended up with effectively Braden Swinson and Savion Jones. And just for context here, Braden Swinson and Savion Jones last year each played 637 snaps. Identical. They both played 637 snaps. Those 2 dudes never came off the field. The next most snaps from a defensive end was Reliford with 153 over 13 games. And by the way, more than 40 of those came in the bowl game when he started. So the point being, you just did not have depth. After Reliford, by the way, the next most snaps was Dylan Carpenter with 53. So you had 2 guys that played like every snap for you at defensive end last year. When you look at right now with Jack Pyburn and Patrick Payton as your 2 starters at defensive end, those 2 guys are both over 130 snaps through 4 games. Pyburn is at 130 and Payton's at 133, but Jamari Butler's at 92. And Gabe Reliford's at 85. Reliford would have had more but for the injury he suffered this past weekend. All that to say, you've had a true rotation. And after that now, the next 4 guys that we're talking about, look, first of all, it's very disappointing for Gabe Reliford. Local guy, played in all 13 games as a freshman. I say local, Louisiana guy from Shreveport. Played at Evangel. Played in all 13 games as a freshman. He's played in all 4 games so far this year. So he does maintain his redshirt year, which is important that it happened now in week 4. But that's a guy at 6'3", 265 who's was in line to be a starter. You go add 3 guys via the portal. He could have pouted. Instead, he worked really hard, had a great camp, and has become a really good part of this rotation. As a matter of fact, Reliford and Butler are your 2 highest graded defensive ends at Pro Football Focus. And I think a big reason is because you've got Pyburn and Payton out there, and weakening up an offensive line that gets tired. Then you have this wave of experienced, talented, strong, physical dudes that come in with fresh legs, and they've been able to be really effective. So the question now becomes, who is next? And you heard the 4 that Brian Kelly mentioned there. Now, Carpenter is a kid from Santa Ma. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. Cobbins, I'm super impressed with. When Kalaj Cobbins signed with LSU, he was 6'1", 205. He's right now at 6'3", 238. So he has physically built his body more, and he is an explosive edge rusher. Maybe not great against the run yet, but great off the edge. Jackson's a guy who's 6'4", 250, and then Shanklin is like the all-airport team. He's a true freshman out of Indianapolis, and he's 6'5", 260, and looks it. He got his first game action last week and had 2 sacks in the fourth quarter. Damian Shanklin is the highest ceiling of those guys. Carpenter probably gets the lion's share of those snaps, but if you need an edge rusher, Cobbins could get there in a pinch. Shanklin with the high ceiling could get some runs. So how Blake Baker and the rest of that defensive staff tries to figure out replacing those snaps from Gabe Reliford will be interesting. But what an awesome opportunity for those young guys there. Kevin Peoples to develop these guys. What a great opportunity for these 4 young players with an opportunity to get some reps, some growth and development. And, of course, you'll have Reliford back for next year. So Gabe Reliford done for the season. That's certainly disappointing, but a great opportunity for these other guys to grow and develop. Of course, you got 3 very veteran players ahead of them at that position. So you should be okay. All right, it is After Further Review. We're here at Don Juan Cigar Bar. Our Friday show today is presented by Got Lit Christmas Light Installers, a great sponsor of ours on whiskey and wine for a couple of years. I've told you about them forever. Super easy process. They'll come to your house. They'll give you an estimate for what it would cost to put Christmas lights all over your house. They bring their lights, set them up. You enjoy. When the season's done, they take them down, haul them away. Turnkey, so easy. I'll never do it any other way. By the way, about a 30-mile radius from Baton Rouge. So if you're more than about a 30-mile radius from Baton Rouge, it's probably outside of their area. But check them out online. Get your estimate at gotlitlights.com, gotlitlights.com. Do it right now. We got it pinned in the YouTube chat, gotlitlights.com. All right, well, I got a quick break. When we come back, Phil Steele, who we visit with every Friday. We'll get Phil's picks on the biggest games of the college football weekend. And then our tailgate segment later, Terrio next hour. We are locked, loaded with a ton to do, and glad to have you hanging out with us here on Football Friday edition of AFR from Don Juan Cigar Bar.
After Further Review.
Guys, if you want to feel your best, you owe it to yourself to check out Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. YourGoodwood.com, YourGoodwood.com. Listen, for a lot of guys, you might already be on HRT. Here's something I'd like for you to consider. At Goodwood, they offer the lowest prices, never any contracts. So whatever you're paying now for your hormone therapy, you'll pay less at Goodwood. Never any contracts. And, by the way, every 4 to 6 months when you go for your blood labs, normally you have to come out of pocket for that. When you're a client at Goodwood, they pick up that expense for your blood labs. And that's not cheap. YourGoodwood.com. So if you're already on hormone therapy, it's time to switch. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. They're on Drusilla in Baton Rouge. YourGoodwood.com. Start there. YourGoodwood.com. Set up that consultation. See how you can start feeling your best. YourGoodwood.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona. Presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Football Friday, we are live at Don Juan Cigar Bar, presented by Got Lit Light Installers. And every Friday, we welcome aboard Phil Steele. We preview the biggest games of the college football weekend. PhilSteele.com, STEELE, PhilSteele.com. Make sure you go take that Phil Steele Plus tour. Phil, happy Friday. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, Matt. How about you?
Fired up, man. Great game. LSU Ole Miss heading into a bye week after this for LSU. So a lot on the line for both teams, and we will get there. Let's start here. A good one out in the desert on Friday night, man. How about TCU, the Horned Frogs, heading out west to take on Arizona State? The Sun Devils, Sparky, a 3.5-point home favorite. You think Arizona State holds serve at home?
I think TCU's a slightly better team this year, but I do think Arizona State being at home is going to be probably the deciding factor. You got Sam Leavitt. He's not having a great year so far, hitting 61% with a 6.3 ratio. But the fact that they're at home, I think Arizona State wins the game. But since the spread's 3.5, I rate these two teams really close. TCU a little bit better. I'll take the points with TCU, figuring Arizona State wins a close one.
Okay, that hook is important there if you can get it. Make sure that you get that. The Saturday slate, Phil, is awesome. I am so fired up. It's one of those days I'm excited to just wake up and not leave the house at all and just watch football from my waking hour to my sleeping moment. In the Big Ten, Southern Cal is headed to Illinois. Man, the Illini licking their wounds after getting just pasted by Indiana last week. Meanwhile, Southern Cal feels quietly 4-0. They're creeping up, ranked 21, and they're a 6.5-point road favorite here. Trojans at Illini. How do you see it?
And you look at the matchups of this game, Matt, and USC looks like the better team right now, and they get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which has been a struggle for Illinois against Duke in the first half, against Indiana. But both those games are on the road. They're back at home. I expect their offensive line to play a little bit better this week. But a couple of key factors to me in this game. First of all, had this game been played last week, I think Illinois would be a 3-point favorite in the game, and now they're getting a full touchdown at home because of last week's result. And the second thing would be USC doesn't play very well when they travel to the East or Central time zones. In fact, they're just 1-13 against the spread. They dropped all 3 games last year, losing at Michigan, Minnesota, Maryland, and this year they didn't cover at Purdue. You could go back and take a look. 1-13 the last 14 trips. This is a noon kickoff, which is 9 a.m. in the morning for USC. So I think the situation really favors Illinois in this one. I'll take Illinois plus the points to play much better than they did last week against Indiana.
Big bounce back spot for sure. In the SEC, this is an interesting one with Arkansas hosting Notre Dame. Phil, I mean, Notre Dame's got a lot of ground to make up after starting 0-2, but Arkansas, how in the world do you get off the mat after blowing an 18-point lead at home? You make any sense out of this when the Irish are a 4.5-point road favorite?
No, I think Notre Dame deserves to be the favorite, but I love Sam Pittman as a dog. This is an Arkansas team that could easily be 4-0. I mean, they were driving for the winning score against Ole Miss, fumbled. They were setting up for the game-winning field goal against Memphis, fumbled. Had they held on to the ball, they could be 4-0. And the same thing with Notre Dame. A 3-point loss at Miami, that's not bad. And Texas A&M needed a 4th and 11 touchdown in the final seconds to beat them by 1, plus that missed extra point by Notre Dame a little bit earlier. So I think you have 2 teams that are much better than their record. Should be a great game. Arkansas is fired up for it. Notre Dame, if they win this one, they'll be favored clearly in all the rest of their games. USC, the only question mark, may be down the stretch. I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I personally, I think Notre Dame wins a close one, but the spread's right around that area as well.
Phil Steele's with us, philsteele.com, Steele, philsteele.com. Make sure you get there. Take the Phil Steele Plus towards linked. The YouTube link is right there on his homepage. Another one in the Big Ten, Phil, where it's always interesting. I know you and I discussed this last week with the teams traveling, like you just mentioned with Southern Cal going to Illinois. Is Ohio State going to Seattle to take on Washington? We've seen some live movement here. It's down to 7.5. So Ohio State's a 7.5-point road favorite here. Tough spot maybe for the Buckeyes?
I think it is. Now, the spread actually just moved while we were talking. It's up to 9 at this point. So something just happened where, maybe some money came back in on Ohio State for this one. But I think it's a really good situation for Washington. Now, the two factors that would have me really going with Washington and potentially pulling the upset, they've got 2 6'4" corners, but one of them is very questionable for the game. They're also missing their top linebacker for the game. So that hurts against Ohio State. But we've seen first-time starting quarterbacks on the road this year really struggle. Arch Manning, Bryce Underwood, etc. And Julian's saying this is his first road start. Husky Stadium, one of the loudest venues in the country. They've got an explosive offense. In fact, they have scored on their last 17 offensive possessions, granted against UC Davis and Washington State. But they got Jonah Coleman, Damon Williams at quarterback, and then Boston at the wide receiver spot. So I think they're capable of trading punches with Ohio State. I'd like to have Takerio Davis at corner available for this one, but even if he's not, I like Washington plus the points, and Ohio State should be on guard for this because that's a dangerous spot for a first-time road start for a quarterback.
Got a couple of more here in the afternoon slot I want to get to before we break, come back, talk about the evening. In the SEC, Auburn, Texas A&M is really interesting, and if you look at spots, Phil, A&M coming off a bye after the emotional win against Notre Dame, Auburn, back-to-back road conference games. What a disappointing loss last week at Oklahoma. Can Auburn get off the mat and go give the Aggies a game?
I like A&M in this one, and you hit it right on the head, Matt. The situation greatly favors the Aggies. Coming off a bye, I think they've got some great enthusiasm, getting the last-second win over Notre Dame. And this is a team I had as my number 2 surprise team in the country in the magazine, meaning I thought they had a shot at making the playoff this year. And you look at the rest of their schedule, they clearly have that shot should they get this one. The offensive line, Coach Elko told me in the offseason last year, he said, hey, our offensive line's middle of the road SEC. This year, he said that it's top of the line SEC, a Joe Moore Award contender, and they look like it so far, allowing just 2 sacks and averaging 4.7 yards per carry. They can also get after the quarterback, and we saw that was a weakness. And when you go on the road with your offensive line, you can't really vary your snap counts that much. Allows the defense to tee off. Oklahoma had 10 sacks last week. I think the Aggies can get some sacks here. So the situation really favors them, and I think Texas A&M is a better team on top of it. I'm going to go with A&M minus the 6.5.
One more for you, Phil, here in this afternoon's slate. Another one in the Big Ten. Indiana, my goodness, what do you do for an encore after just absolutely pasting Illinois? Now they have to go on the road, though, to take on Iowa in Iowa City. Indiana, the 8.5-point road favorite there at Iowa. It looks like a big number, Phil. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to lean with the home dog here. We've seen Iowa be pretty tough in Kinnick Stadium against ranked teams, pulled some big upsets, and their offense getting a little bit better each week. Mark Gronowski probably wasn't 100% at the start of the year. He's rounding into form. Last week he hit 12 of 18 for 186, and the defense with Phil Parker, I think if there's anybody that can slow down this Indiana offense, it would be a Phil Parker defense. Indiana looked tremendous last week. That was at home. Now they've got to go on the road and play Iowa. I'll take the points with Iowa. It's a little scary going against what looks like a buzzsaw for Indiana, but I'll take Iowa plus the points at home.
He is Phil Steele. He's with us every Friday. We're at Don Juan Cigar Bar. Today's Friday show brought to you by Got Lit Light Installers, GotLitLights.com. We'll knock out a quick break. We'll continue with Phil. Make sure you get to PhilSteele.com, STEELE, PhilSteele.com. And you can pick up Phil Steele's magazine at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. We'll continue with the night slate next on AFR.
AFR.
We are brought to you by Duplessis Pool Builders. Check them out online, duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. One of the awesome things I love telling you about with Derek and the great people over at Duplessis is they are community-oriented. And one of the things they're doing right now, I'm so excited about this, is Derek's going to be giving away a pool. And all you have to do to enter is make a $25 donation to Dreams Come True of Louisiana. Awesome organization that grants dreams to children with life-threatening or terminal illnesses. Go to the website, 1045ESPN.com. Make a minimum $25 donation to Dreams Come True of Louisiana, and you're entered to win a pool totally free from Duplessis Builders. And, of course, you're going to help a great cause as well. It's duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net, the Dream Pool Sweepstakes benefiting Dreams Come True of Louisiana. duplessisbuilders.net.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Always great to chat with Phil Steele. You'll get him on Twitter, X at PhilSteele042. Make sure you check out PhilSteele.com, STEELE, PhilSteele.com. Phil, let's move into the late afternoon, then into the night slate. One of the maybe quietest 4-0 teams in the country, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They're at home against Tennessee. The Vols, after their disappointing loss to Georgia, get right spot against UAB last week. Now Tennessee on the road. This opened 9.5, Phil. I'm looking at 7.5 right now. So some Mississippi State love. Where do you fall on the Bulldogs against the Vols?
Yeah, and this is one, Matt, where I'm arguing with my computer all week long. My computer actually likes Mississippi State, calls the game right around even when, and I think if the computer numbers are calling it down, that's probably a big reason for the spread coming down. But in my mind, I just think Tennessee's the better team. And, you look at 7, they've met in their last 8 meetings, Tennessee's won 7 of them. All 7 have been by double digits. Mississippi State's just 3-12 against the spread as a home dog. I think Tennessee's capable going on the road and getting the win. And, my question marks with the Vols coming into the year, Matt, was quarterback. But I think Aguilar's probably a step up from Nico at this point. You look at the running backs, I thought, well, you're losing your all-time rushing leader for a single season at Dylan Sampson, but Thomas and Bishop look great. I think the receiving corps is actually better, led by Chris Brazel. So I think overall this is a very talented Tennessee team, one whose only loss was to Georgia, and that in overtime, a game they could easily have won. I'm going to take the Vols to be able to handle the Cowbells and win this one by more than the spread. So I'll be arguing all week with my computer. We'll see who ends up higher up at the end of the week.
You just hate to see when that computer starts strutting around the office, Phil. Bragging rights for the computer. It's a bad look for everybody. In the night game, I'm curious with Oregon and Penn State. It's where College Game Day is. It's the big one on the docket for most college football fans. I'm curious where you and the computer fall. The Ducks are a 3.5-point road dog. Feels like house money for Oregon and a giant spot for Penn State, a team that kind of has that mantra with James Franklin, their inability to win the big one, and this is certainly a big one there at Happy Valley.
Yeah, and in this one I like Penn State. Oregon has been more impressive so far this year, blowing teams out left and right, but they still haven't beat a team that actually beat a FBS opponent this year. They have 0 wins in that category. And, Penn State has sort of, while they've been winning their games and winning them big, in fact, the only 2 touchdowns they've allowed all year came in the final seconds of games, backdoor covers by both Villanova and Nevada, but their offense hasn't really been rolling. I think Colton Nicky's been holding something back, Colton Nicky, the offense coordinator for Penn State. And keep in mind, Dante Moore, when he was at UCLA, started in 2 hostile environments, at Utah and at Oregon State. And in both those games, he threw 3 interceptions. Now, Dante Moore's looked great this year. He looks much better than he did as a freshman at UCLA. He's got a better supporting cast. But this is a Penn State defense that might be the best in the country. So I think they'll be able to put the pressure on them. And the whiteout conditions at night, it's going to be absolutely deafening there. I'm going to go with Penn State to win this one by more than the 3.5.
All right, Penn State. By the way, you're right. Dante Moore, 11 touchdowns, 1 pick on the season. So a good start, certainly relative to what he was at UCLA. In the SEC, a couple of night contests there. I'd love your thoughts on Kentucky, South Carolina, just because it's been such a disappointing start for South Carolina, Phil. And when you look at what they have ahead in their schedule, if they don't get this one against Kentucky with their next 5 against ranked SEC opponents, I don't know where they're going to get one. The Gamecocks are at home. They're a 5.5-point favorite. Kentucky at South Carolina. Phil, how do you see it?
Yeah, and that was part of the reason, Matt, that I had South Carolina picked in the middle of the pack of the SEC this year was their schedule and the fact that their defense isn't what last year's defense was. And you go back to last year's game, if you watch that, Kentucky came in favored at home, and their offensive line actually got obliterated by South Carolina's front 7. Well, the majority of South Carolina's front 7 is gone, and Kentucky's got a better offensive line. So I think it'll be a much better game than last year. But it is Cutter Boley's first true road start going against South Carolina on the road in a must-win situation. So I agree with you. I think South Carolina circles the wagons. And I was a little impressed with what they did at Missouri last week. While they lost by 9, they were actually leading that thing a good portion of the game. Sellers looked really good throwing the football. I hope they can run it a little. They had -9 yards rushing last week, but I'm going to go with South Carolina to win this one by a touchdown or more.
The big one at night in the Southeastern Conference is Bama-Georgia, a series we all know that Bama has really dominated of late. But, Phil, Georgia don't lose at home under Kirby Smart. The Bulldogs are a 2.5-point home favorite here. Great game in Tuscaloosa a season ago. What do you do for an encore? We'll find out on Saturday night. What do you think, Phil? Crimson Tide at Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, my eye test tells me Alabama's the more talented team. I think, and they're getting a couple of key players back. They get their running back and a defensive lineman, and I think that's going to be big for them. Ty Simpson and that explosive receiving core against the Georgia defense that gave up 371 yards passing to Tennessee. I think Alabama's a better team, but you hit it right on the head. How do you bet against Georgia at home? They just don't lose between the hedges. And last year, if you looked at their schedule, their 3 toughest games were all on the road. And this year, they get the 3 toughest games all at home. So that's part of the reason I picked Georgia at the top. So I think it's going to be a great game, a tight game. I can't see Georgia winning by more than 3. So if I'm going to bet it, I'm going to take Alabama plus the 3 in this one and feel comfortable because I don't think Georgia gets a margin if they do win. And I think Alabama could potentially pull the upset, but definitely wouldn't be one of my top plays.
Okay. One other, before I get to LSU and Ole Miss, Phil, just one other, because I'm going to be up late at night watching this game. I'm just curious your thoughts. BYU is on the road at Colorado. We got a lot of football degenerates here. They're going to be up well past midnight watching, and this is going to be an interesting one. The Cougs, 3-0 on the road at 2-2 Colorado, and BYU's nearly a touchdown favorite. I'm looking at 6.5 right now. What do we think about that night game in Boulder?
I would lean with BYU minus 6.5. Now, Bear Bachmeier got his first road start last week against East Carolina, and they did put up 34 points, so that's good. It's good he got that under his belt. But Colorado's a different team at home. Remember, in the opener, they took Georgia Tech to the wire. That thing was 20-20. Georgia Tech got a late touchdown. They just seem to play a lot better at home. They're playing with legitimate revenge as well, because last year all the talk prior to the bowl game was about Dion and Shadur Sanders and Hunter, and that BYU took it personally and just waxed Colorado in a bowl game. Now Colorado's got them as a home dog, but I do think BYU's the better team. Granted, they haven't played anybody yet. Portland State, Stanford, East Carolina, nothing really in this level. But I'll take BYU. Get that 6.5, though. I'd be really uncomfortable laying more than 7 in this one.
Phil Steele on Twitter at PhilSteele042. Go to PhilSteele.com, STEELE, PhilSteele.com. All right, Phil, the one that everyone here is going to be locked into, it's LSU at Ole Miss. They call it the Magnolia Bowl, but nobody here calls it that. But it's a game where whichever team wins this game takes a massive step forward in their playoff odds. LSU, a slight road dog here. Ole Miss favored by 1.5. Tigers, Rebels. What do you think Saturday afternoon there in Oxford?
Yeah, I don't think the spread comes into factor in this game at all. So basically you're saying who wins the game. You go back to last year's game, Ole Miss didn't trail for a single second. I had LSU in the game, and I felt a little fortunate at the end that LSU came out the winner in overtime like they did. And I think LSU's a better team than they were last year, and I think Ole Miss is a little bit weaker team than they were last year. Now, defensively, a large edge goes to LSU. I've been really impressed with the defense this year. I think offensively, though, I'm going to give the edge to Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss has been an upgrade, I feel, over Austin Simmons. The way Simmons started throwing interceptions at the start of the year, Chambliss hasn't, and he showed the mobility. The home team's absolutely dominated this series, going 10-1 against the spread. So I find it a tough one to call. Now, prior to hopping on with you today, Matt, we had an off-the-phone conversation. You're extremely confident on LSU, and I remember the opener when LSU played Clemson. You loved the under, so that's those are some. I'd like to stick with what Matt's got on this one.
I loved the under in the opener. I loved the under against Florida, which hit, and I think LSU wins this game handily. So I think a money line play in the under are two things that I would love in this game with LSU. Phil, I just think, and I think it happens sometimes this way where maybe odds makers, pundits, sometimes when you look at recent or historical context, there can be outliers that maybe struggle to lines, maybe struggle to catch up. And I think that's what's happened here with LSU because the whole defense is brand new and it's all portal guys and they're veteran guys that just weren't here a year ago. So while LSU struggled with running quarterbacks a year ago, it's none of these guys. And they're really good, man. They are a really, really good defensive team. I think LSU is going to have themselves a day in Oxford, but who knows? Maybe we'll all be laughing at me next week, and maybe your computer will be laughing at you at that for that Tennessee pick as well. Phil, tell them about the Phil Steele Plus Tour.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. Yeah, if you take the Phil Steele Plus Tour, it's available right now. It's on YouTube, and you get 7 free selections this week and 5 quick hitters. It's all available absolutely free. Just go to philsteele.com. Click on the top blog there, and then take the tour. And like I said, it's on YouTube each and every week.
PhilSteele.com, STEELE, PhilSteele.com. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. When you go to YouTube, make sure you follow Phil's channel and then set notifications. So when he drops the tour, you get notified immediately. So if you want to go make those plays with Phil, you do, because that will move lines. PhilSteele.com, STEELE, PhilSteele.com. All right, Phil, we appreciate it. Enjoy a great weekend, man. We'll talk next week.
All right, sounds great, Matt. A lot of fun as always, my friend. Enjoy the game.
We certainly will. That is Phil Steele. This is After Further Review. Friday shows live from Don Juan Cigar Bar in Town Center. We're brought to you by Got Lit Light Installers, GotLitLights.com, GotLitLights.com. It's easy. They come set up lights for Christmas. You enjoy. When the season's over, they come haul them away. You do nothing but enjoy. GotLitLights.com. Check them out for a free estimate. All right, we'll knock out a quick break. Come back. Our tailgate segment is next on AFR.
AFR.
GLO. GlowResources.com. GlowResources.com. Complete employer solutions. When we say complete employer solutions, I say it that way because this isn't a temp staffing agency. They're not looking for you, the employee, to call them looking for a job. That's not what they do. Glow Resources wants you, the business owner, you, the operations manager, you, the hiring manager, you, the HR manager, you, the vice president, to call them. Because at Glow Resources, what they do is they work for you to find a permanent solution for whatever job that you have open. It doesn't matter what industry. It doesn't matter what job. They specialize in skilled blue-collar labor. They also have their professional placement division, which could help you with any office job, from an office assistant to C-level management, anything in between. And they have a 96% success rate. If you need to make your business more efficient by finding the right people, you need Glow Resources. So check them out online at glowresources.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Yeah, I thought it's been an excellent week of practice. Our guys responded the right way. Obviously, there's frustration anytime a game goes like that, but all you can control moving forward is how you work and how you prepare. And so I thought our guys have responded well.
Kellen Moore meeting with reporters on Friday. The Saints' final practice before they are wheels up to Buffalo. They'll take on the Bills this weekend, Sunday, noon Central, 16.5-point underdog, the biggest underdog the Saints have been in quite literally 50 years, since 1975. I don't anticipate this game, of course, is going to go well for New Orleans, but can you play better than you did a week ago and start to make progress as a team? One thing we know definitively is that the Saints are getting healthier. The injury report is out. Unfortunately, both Dylan Radins and Chase Young will not play. The Saints completely just kicked the bucket on this one, man. They screwed it up royally. Chase Young is going to miss 4 games. They should have put him on short-term IR. It's a gross oversight by Kellen Moore, the training staff, all of them. They screwed it up. They should have put him on short-term IR. You would have had the opportunity to have another person take that roster spot for the last month. They mismanaged it. There's no other way to say it. They mismanaged it, but I'd rather them take their time with Chase Young to make sure he's healthy when he does come back. But you screwed that up royally. There's no other way to say it. The good news, Taliesin Fuaga, Trevor Penning, both full participants again today. They'll play on Sunday. And, Kellen Moore did talk about what this road back has been like for Trevor Penning coming back from the toe.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job. He's done everything you can ask. Nothing easy about having to navigate an injury to start an NFL season, and with the transition that he went through, just going back to guard. And so he's going to do an excellent job. We're fired up for him.
So Penning will be at left guard. Fuaga will be at right tackle. He was a full go, meaning for the first time this season, the Saints will have their first team starting offensive line ready to go for a game, and that's something that wasn't lost on Kellen Moore on Friday.
Yeah, obviously we haven't had that group for most of this last month and a half or so, and so I'm excited to see those guys play, to get them some continuity, get playing. We've had a couple of guys step up and done a really good job, but certainly this is the group that we feel can progress in a really high way and progress together as we build this thing.
All right, Saints and Bills Sunday at noon. It's a Friday AFR, live from Don Juan Cigar Bar, presented by Got Lit Light Installers. I always love telling you about our friends over at the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com, WilliamsonEye.com. If you want to see 2020, call 924-2020. Remember, they're also a full-service optical shop. So we say it, eye care, eye wear, eye surgery. You need your eye exam, Williamson Eye Center. You buy contacts or glasses, you need your prescription updated, Williamson Eye Center. Or if you want that refractive procedure to get rid of contacts and glasses forever, Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. All right, we're here at Don Juan Cigar Bar. It's a football Friday. Time for the tailgate segment. Hit it, Muse.
At LSU, we play hard, but we tailgate harder. Light your burner, fire up the grill. It's time for our Football Friday tailgate recipe of the week with Chris's Specialty Foods. 4 locations, or go to chrisspecialtyfoods.com.
All right, Coben Linedecker joins us here at Chris's once again. How are you, sir?
What's up, Matt? Glad to be back, brother.
Yeah, man. Giant one with LSU and Ole Miss. Tigers hitting the road for the first time. We always like to eat the competition, but Rebels, Sharks, Bears. I guess people eat shark. Do y'all sell any shark?
No, we don't sell it, but a couple people do eat it.
Yeah, I guess you could eat some shark. All right, so what do we? This is a spread here. So what direction did we go?
Yeah, all kind of different stuff. So we did a little smoked barbecue platter today.
Let's go.
And we haven't introduced our sides. We have a ton of different sides. So I brought some of that. So right here, what you were smelling earlier that you were pumped about is some stuffed quail. I haven't brought that on the show before.
I don't even know what a quail is.
So
Muse got it. He's laughing back in studio.
So we smoked quail, stuffed it with boudin. Of course, we're in South Louisiana.
Okay. All right, walk me through this. It might be hard for people to, if you're watching on YouTube, to see. It's on the back here. But that stuffed quail, walk me through how you. I mean, quail's not a big bird. How do you walk me through how you do this?
Yeah. So. A grown man could probably eat 3 or 4 of them. They're not very big. We actually stuff them because it cooks more evenly. Quail's a very small bird, and laying flat on the grill, it's very hard to get even cooked throughout. So actually stuffing it and getting it sitting upright is better for it to cook evenly throughout. So
it's cooked with I guess that's the head.
Yeah,
that's the head. So you just put the head face down, so the legs are going up in the air.
And then we put some boudin in the carcass, get it sitting upright.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So we have the stuffed quail. We did some barbecue chicken, smoked chicken wings, of course.
Yes, sir.
And then we brought this home before, our crawfish bread, one of our most popular things in store. That is some smoked andouille. You can use that in your jambalayas, pastalayas, taste tester platters. Everybody loves andouille.
What was the sausage you brought that last time that I like? That was, oh God, I can't.
The smoked brisket?
That was a sausage. Was it a brisket sausage?
Yes, brisket sausage.
Was the one. Yeah,
that's our most popular sausage.
Yeah, get that one. Get that one.
And then
I'm sure that's great too, but we'll get the thing he just said.
And then this is 8 to 10 hour smoked brisket, which is actually cool about this. We sell it already smoked, already sauced in boil bags in the store. So a lot of people don't have 8 to 10 hours to smoke a brisket. We have it already smoked, already sauced, and it's ready in 5 to 6 minutes in a boiling bag that you drop in boiling water.
Really good for, that's easy for tailgates too, if you want to do that. But so give people a tip here if they want to smoke their own brisket. How do you recommend that? You said 8 to 10 hours. Give me how you season, how you prepare it, all this stuff.
Yeah, of course. So how we do our briskets is we have about a 7 to 8 pound brisket. We don't like the overly big ones just because of time purposes. So you can pick your favorite dry rub. We use our Chris's dry rub that we sell in all the stores. We do about a 3 to 4 hour smoke time, not covered, not anything, just sitting on the smoker with some apple wood to get that flavor. Once we see the brownness we like, it comes about 3 to 4 hours at 250, 225, just depending on the size. And then once we see the brownness, the color that we're looking for, then we take those briskets off for 30 minutes. We wrap them in tin foil, pour apple juice on them, let the acidity eat them up, get them tender, wrap them in tinfoil, and then we do another 4 hours on the smoker, and they come out to perfection every time.
That is a commitment.
Yes.
That is like you're starting that thing at 6 a.m. Cracking open a cold beer at 6 a.m., getting that thing ready for a late lunch.
And that's why people love the bowl bags, because you get that same flavor in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Over at Chris's, of course, 4 locations. Like we always say, there's Millerville, there's Highland Road, there's Central. I always forget the Central one. And then there's Lakeview for all the New Orleans folks as well. And online at chrisspecialtyfoods.com. So I always say it's the back-to-back S's. chrisspecialtyfoods.com, chrisspecialtyfoods.com. October 1st is the start of deer season, right?
Yep.
So we're getting close to remind the deer hunters about...
you can drop off at any location. We're taking in... we've already gotten in a couple from out of state. Deer season already open. Drop off your deer at any location, fill out an order form, and we'll process it for you.
The whole thing, you bring it in an ice chest, process the whole thing. You drop it off in any of the Chris's location. All right, who the Tigers got tonight? The Dunham Tigers.
We played last night. We played Ascension Catholic.
How'd it go?
42-7. Good win.
How's Haven looking, man? How's Haven?
Very good. I think last week he had 8 touchdowns. Last night he had 6 touchdowns.
Not bad. Pretty good.
It's fun to watch him play football.
He doesn't stink. Makes it easy for the defensive coordinator whenever the offense, when the quarterback's throwing 8 touchdowns, right? Makes it pretty easy.
Yeah.
All right, give me me a thought on the game tomorrow in Oxford.
Yeah, I really love the under tomorrow. It's 55.5, 56.
Look at my guy.
I love
Look at this.
I love the under tomorrow. I think defense, of course, will do its thing. If offense can just pull through just enough, I like LSU 24-21, and I think defense will hold its own, and I think we're going to get the ball left with a 2-minute drill, and I think we're going to go get a field goal to win it.
All right. You think the defense giving up 21 points?
I think so. In a tough environment in Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's a guru.
Tell me this Division II quarterback's going to do that against Blake Baker's defense? Anyway, a defensive guy thinks there's going to be more offense than under, but he does like the under. I agree with you.
I do like the
under. All
under.
right, Chris'sSpecialtyFoods.com. Thank you, Coben. I appreciate it, man. All right, brought to you by Evermore, EVAMOR, Evermore.com, Evermore.com. Of course, you're going to be eating all this delicious food. You need something delicious and nutritious to wash it down. Evermore Natural Artesian Water, EVAMOR, Evermore.com. That's Evermore.com. If you want to check it out at great local retailers or find the retailer nearest you at evermore.com, EVAMOR. Drink Evermore. And by the way, for where you shop, if they don't have it, ask them why. Drink Evermore. All right, y'all, it's after further review. Terrio's here for the Riot Radio Hours coming up after Sports Center. We're fired up to have you with us live from Don Juan Cigar Bar in Town Center. Friday show is brought to you by Got Lit Light Installers. Visit GotLitLights.com.
AFR.
All right, before we get to Terry, I'll remind you about First South Farm Credit. It might actually be good for him to be in here because when I tell you about First South Farm Credit, it's all about buying land. Boy, Terrio, he's always wanting to buy that land, man. He dreams about it. He dreams about buying that property where he can build his family's dream home and have some land out in the country. And that could be you as well if it's the 20, 50, 100 acres to build your family's dream home and have that rural lifestyle. Maybe you work in the city but have the rural lifestyle. Or maybe you want that hunting property. We're just talking about it with COVID, man. October 1st, hunting season starts. Probably going to be sharing a lease because that's what most people do. But if you want your own property, you're tired of sharing that property with someone else, First South Farm Credit can make that dream a reality because since 1916, for more than 100 years, First South Farm Credit has done one thing better than anyone else. They help Louisianians buy land. With more than 40 branches in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, they can help you buy land anywhere in the lower 48. So visit them online at firstsouthland.com.